I found it in the back of my father's closet, buried beneath old sweaters that still smelled of him, even now. A showbox. Not hidden with any real skill, just pushed into the shadows where grieving daughters don't think to look. My mother was downstairs making tea, her movements slow and heavy, the way they've been since the diagnosis. 6 weeks. That's what the doctors gave him. 6 weeks to say goodbye to a man who built walls around himself for 50 years. The photograph was tucked inside a yellowed envelope. No name, no date. Just an image that stopped my heart. My father, maybe 25, lean and smiling in a way I'd never seen. Genuine. Unguarded. His arm wrapped around a woman with dark curly hair, and in her arms, a newborn baby. The woman wasn't my mother. The baby wasn't me. I turned the photograph over. Nothing. No names, no explanation. Just the ghost of a family I never knew existed. My hands trembled as I slid it back into the envelope, as if I'd been caught stealing. I heard my mother's footsteps on the stairs and shoved the box back into place, my mind racing through possibilities I wasn't ready to consider. That was 3 days ago. 3 days of sitting beside my father's hospice bed, watching him fade, watching my mother hold his hand and whisper memories I now questioned. 3 days of carrying a secret that burned against my chest like a brand. And 3 days of Liam. Liam has been my anchor through all of it. My best friend since college, the one who shows up with food I forget to eat, who sits with me in hospital waiting rooms at 3 a.m., who holds my hair back when the grief makes me sick. My mother adores him. She tells me constantly, with that hopeful look widows get when they're terrified of leaving their children alone. He's a good man, she said this morning, watching him wash dishes in our kitchen while I sat numb at the table. The way he looks at you. Don't wait too long to figure out what you have. If she only knew. If she only knew that Liam slept on my bedroom floor last night because I couldn't stop crying. That he held me until 4 a.m., not as a lover, but as the only person on earth who could make the darkness retreat. That when I finally drifted off, I dreamed of him pulling me from drowning, and woke up with his name on my lips. My mother sees romance. She sees the wedding she probably won't live to attend, the grandchildren she'll never hold. She sees safety. She doesn't see the photograph burning a hole in my purse. She doesn't know that every time Liam touches my arm, every time our eyes meet across the room, I feel something crack open inside me. Something I've been running from for years. And she certainly doesn't know that today. I'm going to ask him to help me find the woman in that photograph. The woman with the curly hair. The woman holding my father's secret. We met at our usual coffee shop, the one with the cracked leather booths and the barista who knows our orders by heart. Liam was already there when I arrived, 2 cups on the table, his laptop open to some work document he wasn't really reading. "You look terrible," he said, but his eyes were soft with concern. That's the thing about Liam. He tells the truth, but he wraps it in kindness. I sat down across from him and slid the photograph across the table. For a long moment, he just stared at it. Then he looked up at me, confusion pulling his eyebrows together. "Is this your dad?" "Yeah." "And the woman?" I shook my head. "I don't know who she is. Or the baby." Liam picked up the photograph, studying it the way he studies everything. Carefully. Thoroughly. Like if he looks hard enough, he can solve any problem. I've watched him do it with flat tires and broken hearts and complicated work projects. He approaches everything like a puzzle. "Where did you find this?" "Hidden in his closet. Dad's dying. Liam. He has weeks, maybe less. And I find out he had some secret family before us? Before Mom." The word family caught in my throat. Because that's what this looked like. A family. A young father, a new mother, a fresh baby. The kind of hopeful beginning that my parents never had. My parents married in their 40s, settled and quiet. No wild youth. No passionate love stories. Or so I thought. Liam reached across the table and took my hand. His palm was warm, familiar. "You want to find them." "I want to know the truth. Before he dies. I want to understand who he was, who we are." I pulled my hand back, not because I wanted to, but because the feeling of his skin against mine was starting to feel dangerous. "Will you help me?" "Always," he said. Simple. Certain. The way he says everything. The search took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of my father slipping further away, his sentences growing shorter, his eyes more distant. 3 weeks of lying to my mother about where I was going, who I was with. 3 weeks of spending every possible moment with Liam, chasing down records and making phone calls and driving to old addresses that led nowhere. We became a team in a new way. Not just friends supporting each other through crisis, but detectives hunting a ghost. We spent hours in the county records office, Liam charming the clerks while I combed through birth certificates. We sat in my car outside abandoned houses, eating fast food and speculating about what we might find. We talked on the phone until midnight, going over the same details, the same dead ends. And somewhere in all that closeness, the lines started to blur. Or maybe it had always been blurred. Maybe I'd loved Liam since the moment he sat next to me in Introduction to Psychology and offered me half his granola bar. Maybe I'd just been too scared to admit it, too comfortable in the safety of friendship. But now, with my father dying and my mother clinging to hope and this secret burning between us, the truth of my feelings felt impossible to ignore. One night, after a particularly discouraging dead end, we sat on the hood of his car in an empty parking lot, watching the stars appear one by one. He'd bought us milkshakes, vanilla for me, chocolate for him, like we were still 19 and the world was simple. What happens after? He asked quietly. After what? After we find them. After your dad. He trailed off, unable to say it. I stared at my milkshake, the straw making circles in the melting ice cream. I don't know. I guess I figure out how to be a person who has a secret half-sibling somewhere. And us. The question hung in the air between us, heavy with meaning. What do you mean? I asked, even though I knew exactly what he meant. Liam turned to look at me, and in the dim parking lot light, his eyes held something I'd never seen before. Or maybe I'd seen it 100 times and refused to name it. I mean, what happens to us? After all this. After the crisis is over and you don't need me to hold your hand through every hard thing. He paused. What if I don't want to go back to just being your friend? My heart stopped, then started again, too fast. Liam. I know that timing is terrible. I know your dad is dying and your world is falling apart and this is the last thing you need. But I've been quiet for 6 years, and I can't be quiet anymore. He set his milkshake down, turning fully toward me. I love you. Not like a friend. Not like a brother. I love you. And I need to know if there's any chance you might feel the same. The tears came before I could stop them. Because of course I felt the same. Of course I'd loved him for years, buried it so deep I'd almost convinced myself it wasn't real. And now, with everything falling apart, here was this one beautiful thing, this one possibility of happiness. I leaned forward and kissed him. It was soft and sweet and tasted like chocolate milkshake and tears. When I pulled back, he was smiling. That genuine smile I'd only ever seen directed at me. I love you too, I whispered. I think I always have. He pulled me into a hug, and I buried my face in his shoulder, breathing him in. For one perfect moment, the photograph didn't exist. My dying father didn't exist. There was only Liam and me and the terrifying, beautiful possibility of forever. The next morning, we got the lead that would change everything. A woman with curly hair, now grey, still living at the same address from 30 years ago. A woman who might know where the baby went. A woman who might be able to tell us the truth. Liam and I drove there together, holding hands across the console, nervous and excited and hopeful. We were going to solve the mystery. We were going to find my father's lost child. And then we were going to figure out how to build a life together, starting from this moment, this shared purpose. We pulled up to a small house with a white porch and potted flowers by the door. I squeezed Liam's hand one last time for luck. We'll do this together, he said. Whatever we find, we face it together. I believed him. I believed everything. And then the door opened. The woman on the porch had kind eyes and silver curls that fell past her shoulders. She looked at us with the mild curiosity of someone used to strangers knocking, her hands wrapped around a coffee mug like she had all the time in the world. Can I help you? I held up the photograph, my hand shaking. "I'm sorry to bother you. I'm looking for the woman in this picture. I think it might be you." She took the photograph, and everything changed. Her face went pale, then flushed. The coffee mug tipped in her hand, spilling onto the porch, but she didn't notice. She just stared at the image, her free hand rising to cover her mouth. "Where did you get this?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "It was my father's. He's dying. I need to find the baby in this picture. Please." She looked at me then, really looked, and something shifted in her expression. Recognition. Grief. A door opening onto a room that had been locked for 30 years. "You look like him," she said. "Around the eyes. You have his eyes." "I'm his daughter." She nodded slowly, like she'd known this moment was coming, had been preparing for it for decades. Then her gaze moved to Liam, standing just behind me, and something flickered across her face. Confusion. Searching. "You'd better come inside." Her name was Margaret. She made us tea with trembling hands, set out cookies she didn't touch, sat across from us in a living room filled with photographs of grandchildren and vacations and a life built after the one my father shattered. "I was 19, she began, her eyes fixed on the photograph we'd returned to her. "Your father was 22. We were young and stupid and so in love we couldn't see straight. His family hated me. Wrong background, wrong religion, wrong everything. When I got pregnant, they went nuclear." I reached for Liam's hand without thinking. He squeezed, grounding me. They forced him to choose. His family's money, his future, his inheritance. Or me and the baby. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. He was 22. He chose wrong. I don't blame him anymore. Took me 20 years, but I finally stopped blaming him. "The baby," I pressed. "What happened to the baby?" Margaret set down her tea. Her eyes moved to Liam again, that same searching look. "I couldn't raise a child alone. I was 19, no money, no family support. I made the hardest decision of my life. I found a couple who couldn't have children. Good people. They'd waited years for a baby. I gave him to them." Gave him. Closed adoption. No names, no contact, no way to find each other. I signed away my rights and spent the next 30 years wondering if he was okay. If he was happy. If he hated me. Her voice cracked. "I never remarried. Never had other children. There was only ever him. Did you ever try to find him?" The laws changed eventually. I registered on every reunion database I could find. Hired a private investigator once, years ago. But he'd been adopted through a private agency that closed down. Records sealed. The trail went cold. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I always hoped he'd look for me. That one day he'd want to know where he came from." I opened my mouth to ask the next question, but Margaret was staring at Liam again. Really staring now. Studying his face like she was memorizing it. "You," she said softly. "The young man. What's your name?" "Liam." "Liam." She tested the word like it might unlock something. "Where were you born? What month?" Liam glanced at me, confused. "February. February 14th. Valentine's Day baby, my mom always said." Margaret's face crumpled. "February 14th. 30 years ago. At St. Mary's Hospital." The room went silent. I could hear my own heartbeat, loud and panicked. No, this wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. Liam's hand went rigid in mine. "How did you know that?" Margaret stood up, walked to a shelf, and returned with a photo album. Her hand shook so badly she could barely open it. She flipped to a page near the back and turned it toward us. A baby, wrapped in a hospital blanket. A tiny bracelet on his wrist reading Baby Boy Mitchell. February 14th. Liam stared at the photograph like it was a window into another dimension. His face had gone grey. "I don't understand," he whispered. Margaret reached out, slowly, like she was approaching a wild animal. Her fingers touched his cheek, barely grazing the skin. You have his nose, she breathed. Your father's nose. I used to trace it with my finger while he slept. 30 years ago, and I'd recognize it anywhere. Liam pulled back like he'd been burned. He stood up so fast his chair nearly tipped over. No, that's not possible. I have parents. I have a mother and father. They raised me. They're my family. I'm sure they are, sweetheart. I'm sure they loved you. But I'm your mother too. I carried you. I held you for 3 hours before I let you go. I named you Thomas, after my grandfather. I've thought about you every single day for 30 years. Liam was backing toward the door, his eyes wild. I'd never seen him like this. Never seen the steady, solid, unshakable man I loved come apart at the seams. Liam, I said, standing, reaching for him. He looked at me, and something in his expression stopped me cold. Something that looked like horror. Like the world ending. Your father, he said. His voice was hollow. The man in the photograph. The man who abandoned her. He pointed at Margaret, but his eyes never left mine. That's my father. The word hung in the air between us. Father. My father. His father. No, I whispered. No, Liam, that's not. He's my father. Liam's voice broke. Which means you're my. He couldn't finish the sentence. Neither could I. Sister. Half-sister. The word was too monstrous to speak aloud. I thought about the kiss. The milkshake. The parking lot under the stars. I thought about every time I'd imagined a future with him, every plan I'd made without admitting I was making them. I thought about my mother, pushing us together, dreaming of weddings and grandchildren. I thought about my father, dying in a hospital bed, knowing exactly what he'd done. Knowing and saying nothing. Liam walked out the door. Not stormed. Not ran. Just walked, like a man in a dream, like a man whose entire life had just been revealed as a lie. I wanted to follow him. My legs wouldn't move. Margaret was crying silently, tears streaming down her face. She looked at me with something like pity. You didn't know. Either of you. How could you know? We are in love. The words came out flat, dead. We've been in love for years. We just figured it out. Yesterday. We just figured it out yesterday. She closed her eyes. When she opened them, they held the kind of grief that doesn't fade, just settles into the bones and stays. Then you know, she said quietly. You know what it's like to love someone you can't have. I don't remember driving home. I don't remember walking into the house. I only remember my mother's face when she saw me, the way her expression shifted from relief to alarm. What happened? Where's Liam? Is your father? He's the same. The words felt foreign in my mouth. Dad's the same. Then what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. I almost laughed. A ghost. Yes. The ghost of a brother. The ghost of a future. The ghost of a love that had died before it ever really lived. Mom, I need to ask you something. About Dad. About before you met him. She sat down slowly, her hand pressing against her chest the way it does when she's scared. What kind of question? Did you know? Did you know he had another family? A son? The silence that followed was louder than any answer could have been. You need to talk to your father, she finally said. I'm asking you. She looked away, and in that moment, I saw guilt written across her face. Guilt and grief and something else. Something that looked like fear. Your father told me everything before we got married. I knew about Margaret. I knew about the baby. He tried to find them, years ago, but the adoption was sealed. He hired someone. Spent money we didn't have. He never stopped looking. And you married him anyway. I loved him. The way you love Liam. She reached for my hand, and I pulled away. I know it's hard to understand. But people make mistakes. Terrible mistakes. Your father was 22 and his family destroyed him. He spent the rest of his life trying to be a better man. He lied to me. My whole life, he lied. He was ashamed. He was scared. And then too much time passed, and he didn't know how to tell you. Her eyes searched my face. Is that why you're upset? Because you found out about a brother. I couldn't tell her. I couldn't say the words. I couldn't watch her face crumble when she realized that her dreams for me, her precious hopes for my happiness, were built on something obscene. I need to see Dad. Honey, it's late. He's sleeping. I need to see him now. She didn't stop me. The hospice room was dark, lit only by the soft glow of machines monitoring a life that was almost over. My father looked smaller than he had this morning, his skin grey, his breathing shallow. Dying. Really dying. Soon. I sat in the chair beside his bed and watched him sleep. This man who had raised me, who had taught me to ride a bike and drive a car, who had walked me down the aisle at my wedding. No, not that. Never that now. But he'd held me when I was sick. He'd cried at my graduations. He'd loved me. I knew he loved me, in whatever broken way he was capable of loving anyone. And he'd ruined my life without even knowing it. His eyes opened slowly, finding me in the darkness. For a moment, he looked confused. Then something like peace settled over his face. "Sweetheart," he whispered. "I'm glad you're here." "Dad." My voice was steady, which surprised me. I found the photograph. The one with Margaret and the baby. His eyes widened. His hand, papery and thin, reached for me. I didn't take it. "I know about my brother. I know you gave him up. I know you spent years trying to find him." Tears leaked from the corners of his eyes, tracking down the wrinkles in his temples. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I never told you. I was going to. Before I wanted you to find him. To tell him I never stopped loving him. That I thought about him every day. I found him, Dad." Something flickered in his dying eyes. Hope. Terrible, beautiful hope. "You did. Is he okay? Is he happy? Does he hate me?" I thought about Liam's face when he walked out that door. The horror. The grief. The love that had turned to poison in the space of a single revelation. He's good, Dad. He's a good man. Kind. Loyal. The best person I know. Can I see him? Before I... He couldn't finish, but he didn't have to. I should have said yes. I should have given him peace. I should have let my father die believing his son had forgiven him. But I couldn't, because that son was the man I loved. And my father's peace would cost me everything. "Not yet," I whispered. "He needs time. We both do." My father nodded, accepting, always too late. "Tell him I loved him. Will you tell him that?" I stood up, unable to stay in that room another second. At the door, I turned back. "I'll tell him, Dad. But I need you to know something first." He waited, trusting, believing I was still his little girl. "I loved someone too. The way you loved Margaret. Real and deep and like nothing else mattered. And now I can't have him. Because of you." I walked out before I could see his face. Liam didn't answer his phone. He didn't answer my texts. I drove past his apartment 3 times, but his car wasn't there. I sat in my own apartment, in the dark, and tried to figure out how to exist in a world where the future I'd almost touched had turned into something forbidden. Morning came, grey and cold. My phone buzzed. Liam's name on the screen. I answered without speaking. "I'm at the pier," he said. His voice sounded hollow, scraped out. "The one where we used to watch the sunset. Come alone." He hung up before I could respond. The pier was empty this early, the kind of grey morning where the sky and water blur into one endless sheet of misery. I found Liam at the very end, sitting on the wooden planks with his legs hanging over the edge, staring at nothing. He didn't turn when I sat down beside him. Didn't acknowledge me at all. Just kept staring at the water like it held answers we'd never find. "I called my parents," he said finally. "Last night. Woke them up at 2 a.m. screaming questions like a child." I waited. They admitted it. All of it. The adoption agency, the closed records, the private detective they hired to make sure Margaret never tried to find me. He laughed, sharp and broken. They were so scared of losing me they made sure I could never find her. 30 years. I could have known her for 30 years. They were protecting you. In their own way. Don't defend them. Not right now. He finally looked at me, and the pain in his eyes was a physical thing. I don't know who I am anymore. I thought I was Liam Peterson, son of David and Carol, raised in the suburbs, normal life, normal family. Now I'm Thomas Mitchell, abandoned by a father who just happened to raise my... He stopped. Swallowed. Raise you. The word hung between us. Sister. Neither of us could say it. I talked to my dad last night, I whispered. He knows I found you. He wants to see you before he dies. Liam's jaw tightened. What did you tell him? Nothing. About us, I mean. He doesn't know. Us. He repeated the word like he was testing it for poison. Is there an us? What do we even call ourselves now? I didn't have an answer. I still don't. We sat in silence for a long time, the way we always could. But this silence was different. It used to be comfortable, full of unspoken understanding. Now it was full of unspoken grief. I keep thinking about the kiss, Liam said quietly. If I'd known. If we'd found out one day earlier. I never would have. Don't. My voice came out sharper than I intended. Don't you dare regret it. That kiss was real. Whatever we felt was real. We didn't do anything wrong. Didn't we? He turned to face me fully. We are brother and sister. Half-brother and half-sister. However you slice it, that kiss was wrong. We didn't know. Does that matter? Does it change anything? I wanted to say yes. I wanted to believe that intention mattered, that ignorance was a shield, that we could somehow go back to before and pretend none of this happened. But looking at his face, at the man I'd loved for 6 years, I knew the truth. It didn't change anything. It changed everything. What do we do now? I asked. Liam picked up a pebble from between the planks and tossed it into the water. We watched the ripples spread and disappear. I think we need to tell your father the truth. Liam, no. He's dying. He has days left. You can't. He deserves to know. Liam's voice was steady now, that familiar certainty returning. He spent 30 years wondering about me, wondering if I was okay. He deserves to know that I was okay, that I had a good life, that I turned out okay despite him. And the rest of it? About us. Liam was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. Maybe he should know that too. Maybe he should understand the full weight of what his choices cost. I thought about my father's face last night, the way hope had flickered in his dying eyes. I thought about snuffing that hope out with the truth, with the image of his daughter kissing his son, falling in love with his son, dreaming of a life with his son. He can't carry that to his grave, I whispered. It would destroy him. Good. The word was cold, hard, nothing like the Liam I knew. I stared at him, searching for the man who held my hair back when I was sick, who brought me milkshakes in empty parking lots, who told me he loved me under the stars. That's not you, I said. That's grief talking. That's pain. But it's not you. He looked away. When he spoke again, his voice cracked. I don't know who I am anymore. You said that's not me. But maybe you don't know me either. Maybe neither of us knows anything. We decided to wait one day. Just one. To process. To breathe. To figure out how to face a dying man with a truth that would either set him free or crush him entirely. I went home to find my mother waiting in the kitchen, her face pale and drawn. Your father took a turn, she said. The doctor says it could be hours. Maybe less. The world tilted. I grabbed the counter to steady myself. Where is he? Sleeping. They've increased the morphine. He's not in pain, but he's not really awake either. She reached for my hands. He was asking for you. Mumbling something about a son. About finding his son. I closed my eyes. Of course. Of course this was happening now, before I was ready, before we'd decided anything. Mom, there's something I need to tell you. About the son. About who he is. She shook her head. Not now. Whatever it is, it can wait. Right now, you need to be with your father. The rest can wait. No, it can't. Because the son is. The doorbell rang. We both froze. Visitors were rare this time of morning, and no one came to a hospice house without calling first. My mother went to the door. I heard her gasp, then a murmur of voices. When she came back, Liam was behind her. He looked at me, and I saw it in his eyes. He'd made a decision. He was here to face it, whatever it cost. Liam, my mother said, her voice confused but welcoming. This is a surprise. Is everything okay? Liam looked at her, then at me. I need to see him. Before it's too late. I need to see my father. My mother's confusion deepened. Your father? Sweetheart, is your father here? I didn't know he was. No. Liam's voice was gentle but firm. My father. Her father. He pointed at me, then at himself. Our father. The silence that followed was absolute. I watched understanding dawn on my mother's face, watched it shift from confusion to denial to horror. No, she whispered. No, that's not possible. You're not, you can't be. I'm the baby in the photograph. Margaret's baby. The one he gave up 30 years ago. Liam's voice never wavered. I didn't know until yesterday. Neither did she. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. She stumbled backward, catching herself on the wall. Her eyes moved between us, taking in the truth we'd been carrying alone. You've been together, she breathed. All this time. You've been. Mom, we didn't know. We never knew. We just found out yesterday, right before. Before what? Her voice rose. Before you kissed. Before you fell in love. Before you let me sit here planning your future like some kind of fool. We didn't plan this. Liam stepped forward, hands raised in peace. None of this was planned. We were friends. Just friends. For years, we were just friends. And then? And then what? My mother's eyes were wild, searching, desperate for an explanation that would make this okay. And then you decided to be more. While his father was dying in the next room. While I was praying for you to find happiness together. Mom, stop. Please. But she couldn't stop. I watched her crumble, watched the carefully constructed world she'd built collapse around her. Her husband's secret. Her daughter's love. Her dreams for the future. All of it, Ash. Does he know? She demanded. Does your father know? That the son he abandoned is the same boy he welcomed into this house? That he sat across from at dinner? That he watched fall in love with his daughter? Not yet. Liam's voice was quiet. That's why I'm here. He deserves to know the truth before he goes. All of it. My mother stared at him for a long moment. Then she did something I didn't expect. She laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was the sound of someone who'd reached the end of her capacity for pain, who discovered that the universe had an infinite supply of cruelty, who'd finally stopped pretending any of this made sense. Go, she said. Both of you. Go tell him. Let him die knowing what he did. Let him carry it with him. Mom. Don't. She held up a hand. Don't try to comfort me. Don't try to explain. Just go. I'll be here when you're done. Assuming any of us survive this. She walked into the kitchen and closed the door behind her. Liam and I stood alone in the hallway, listening to the silence of a house waiting for death. Are you ready? He asked. No. Are you? No. I took his hand. His fingers intertwined with mine, familiar and wrong and right all at once. For this one moment, this last moment, I let myself pretend we were still us. Still possible. Still anything but what we'd become. Together, we walked toward my father's room. He was awake when we entered. Barely. His eyes found us, moved to our joined hands, and something flickered across his face. Confusion. Then recognition. Then something I couldn't name. "You found him," he whispered. His voice was paper-thin, barely there. "You found my boy." Liam released my hand. He walked to the bedside and looked down at the man who gave him life, then gave him away. "I'm here," he said simply. My father reached up with trembling hands. Liam hesitated, then took them. Two strangers connected by blood and silence and 30 years of absence. "I'm sorry," my father breathed. "I was young. I was weak. I should have fought for you. I should have." "Stop." Liam's voice was gentle but firm. "I didn't come here for apologies. I came here because you're dying, and I wanted you to know that I'm okay. I had a good life. Good parents. I turned out okay." Tears streamed down my father's face. "Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for—" "There's something else you need to know." I stepped forward, my heart pounding. "Dad, maybe we should." "No." Liam cut me off, his eyes never leaving my father's face. "He needs to know everything. Before it's too late." My father looked between us, confusion returning. "What is it? What's wrong?" Liam took a deep breath. I watched him gather himself, watched him become the strongest person I'd ever known. "Her." He nodded toward me. "The girl who found me. The woman who brought me here. I've known her for 6 years. She's my best friend. And until yesterday, I was in love with her." The word was hit me like a physical blow. Was. Past tense. Already past tense. My father's face went grey. Not the grey of approaching death, but the grey of comprehension. Of horror. "No," he whispered. "No, please God, no." She didn't know. I didn't know. No one knew. We found out yesterday, when we met Margaret. When she recognized me. Liam's voice never broke, never wavered. But before that, for one perfect moment, we thought we'd found something beautiful. We kissed. We made plans. We dreamed about a future. My father was crying now, ugly sobs that shook his wasted frame. "I did this. This is my fault. All of it." "Yes." Liam's voice was quiet but certain. "It is." I couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. Couldn't do anything but watch as two men, my father, my brother, faced each other across a chasm of pain that could never be crossed. "I'm sorry." My father's words were barely audible. "I'm so sorry. If I could take it back, if I could change any of it." "You can't." Liam released his hands and stepped back. "You can't change any of it. But you can die knowing the truth. Knowing what your choices cost. Knowing that your daughter and your son will spend the rest of their lives figuring out how to be something other than what they almost were." He turned to me. His eyes were dry, but I could see the grief buried deep, the love he was already learning to call something else. "I'll be outside," he said. "Say goodbye to your father." And then he was gone, and I was alone with a dying man who destroyed us both without meaning to. I sat in the chair beside my father's bed and watched him fall apart. His body shook with sobs he was too weak to control, tears soaking the pillow, his thin hands clutching at the sheets like he could somehow hold on to a life he'd spent 30 years running from. "I didn't know," he kept repeating. "I swear to God, I didn't know it was him. All those dinners, all those nights he sat at my table, I never—" His voice broke into a coughing fit that left him gasping. "I should have felt something. Pity, maybe. Or anger. Or the crushing weight of a grief that kept multiplying, each revelation making the last one worse. But all I felt was empty. Scraped hollow by 24 hours of truth I couldn't unlearn. Dad, stop. You're making yourself worse." "Worse." He laughed, a horrible wet sound. "I'm dying. There is no worse. There's only this. Only knowing what I've done to you. To both of you." I looked away. The window showed a grey sky, the same grey sky Liam and I had watched from the pier. Already that moment felt like years ago. Already the man I loved was becoming a stranger. Do you love him? The question pulled my gaze back to my father's face. His eyes, clouded with pain and morphine, searched mine with an intensity I'd never seen. Don't, I whispered. Do you love him? Yes. The word came out broken. Yes, I love him. I've loved him for years. I just didn't know what to call it until yesterday. Until he kissed me and I finally let myself feel it. My father closed his eyes. Fresh tears escaped from beneath his lids. And now, I thought about the way Liam had said was. Past tense. Already putting distance between himself and the feeling that had defined us. Now I don't know what we are. Brother and sister? Strangers? Two people who accidentally fell in love and have to spend the rest of our lives pretending we didn't. That's not fair. My father's voice was barely a whisper. None of this is fair to you. Fair? I laughed, and it sounded almost as broken as his. You abandoned a child. You kept secrets for 30 years. You let me fall in love with my own brother and didn't even know it. Fair left the building a long time ago, Dad. He reached for me, but I didn't take his hand. Couldn't. The thought of touching him right now made my skin crawl. What do you want me to say? He pleaded. What words can possibly fix this? There are no words. There's no fixing. There's only you dying and me living with the consequences. I stood up, needing to move, needing to escape the suffocating weight of that room. Liam came here to give you peace. To let you know he turned out okay despite you. And instead, I watched you destroy whatever fragile peace he'd built. That's not what It's exactly what you did. He walked in here carrying 30 years of abandonment and walked out carrying guilt for falling in love with his sister. You did that. Not intentionally, but you did it. My father's face crumpled. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. What do I do? He whispered. Tell me what to do. I thought about it. Really thought about what I needed from a dying man who'd already given me everything and nothing. Tell me about her. About Margaret. Not the version you told Mom. The real version. Tell me who you were before you became my father. And so he did. He talked for almost an hour, his voice fading in and out, the morphine pulling him towards sleep he kept fighting. He told me about meeting Margaret at a diner where she worked, about the way she laughed, about sneaking out to see her when his parents thought he was studying. He told me about the pregnancy, the fear, the way his father sat him down and explained, calmly and coldly, that he would be disinherited, disowned, erased from the family if he chose her. 22 years old and forced to decide between love and everything he'd ever known. I chose wrong, he said for the 100th time. I've known it every day since. Your mother knew. I told her before we married. She said everyone deserves a second chance. She gave me one. She loved you. Too much. She loved me too much and I let her build a life on a foundation of lies. He gripped my hand, and this time I let him. Don't do that. Whatever happens with Liam, whatever you become to each other, don't build on lies. It'll crumble. It always crumbles. I thought about my mother, alone in the kitchen, processing a truth she'd never asked for. I thought about Liam, waiting outside, probably freezing, probably wishing he'd never come. I should go, I said. You need to rest. Wait. His grip tightened. Is he still out there? Liam? I think so. Bring him back. Please. There's something I need to say to him. Something I should have said 30 years ago. I found Liam sitting on the front steps, his back to the house, staring at nothing. He didn't turn when I sat down beside him. How is he? Broken. Dying. Asking for you. Liam laughed, short and hollow. Of course he is. Because this isn't hard enough already. He wants to say something. Something he should have said 30 years ago. And I should want to hear it. I didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because I didn't know what any of us should want anymore. We sat in silence for a long moment. The neighborhood was quiet, the kind of middle-class stillness that usually felt peaceful. Today it felt like a held breath. I meant what I said in there. Liam finally spoke. About us. About being in love. I noticed you used past tense. He turned to look at me, and the pain in his eyes was bottomless. What else could I use? Present tense? Future tense? There is no future tense for us. There can't be. Why not? The question hung between us, forbidden and necessary. Because we are related. His voice cracked on the word. Because every time I look at you now, I see my father's eyes in your face. Because the thought of kissing you makes me want to throw up and also makes me want to disappear into the ground from wanting it. You still want to kiss me? Of course I still want to kiss you. That doesn't go away just because we found out we share DNA. Love doesn't work like that. It's not logical. It's not convenient. It's just there. Poisonous and beautiful and completely fucking impossible. I reached for his hand. He let me take it. For one moment, we were just us again. Two people who fit together in every way except the one that mattered. What do we do? I whispered. I don't know. I've been asking myself that since yesterday. Since Margaret opened that door and my whole life turned into a lie. He squeezed my hand. I thought maybe time. Distance. Figure out who I am without you, then figure out who you are to me. And after that, I don't know. Maybe we learn to be brother and sister. Maybe we learn to be strangers. Maybe we spend the rest of our lives missing each other and never saying it out loud. The grief of it hit me like a wave. Not just losing Liam as a lover, but losing him entirely. Because how could we go back to friendship after this? How could we sit in coffee shops and pretend we didn't know what each other's lips felt like? He wants to see you, I said again. You don't have to go. But I think you might regret it if you don't. Liam stared at the house for a long moment. Then he stood, pulling me up with him. Come with me. Always. My father was worse when we returned. The hour had drained him, pulled him closer to whatever waited on the other side. But his eyes found Liam the moment we entered, and something like peace settled over his face. Thomas, he whispered. Your mother named you Thomas. Liam, he corrected gently. I've been Liam for 30 years. Liam. My father tested the word. It suits you. Strong. Kind. The kind of name a good man carries. Liam said nothing, just stood at the foot of the bed with his arms crossed over his chest, protecting himself. I knew the pose. I'm not going to ask for forgiveness. My father's voice was barely there. I don't deserve it. I'm not going to explain or justify or make excuses. I just need you to know one thing. He paused, gathering strength from somewhere deep. I looked for you. Every year. Every birthday. Every Valentine's Day. I hired people. Spent money I didn't have. Followed leads that went nowhere. I never stopped being your father, even when I had no right to call myself that. Liam's jaw tightened. You gave me away. I did. And I regretted it every single day of my life. Not because my life was bad. I had a good life, a good wife, a beautiful daughter. But because there was always a hole where you should have been. A silence where your voice should have lived. I watched Liam's face, searching for some crack in his armor. There was none. But I knew him well enough to see the war beneath the surface. I'm not telling you this to make you feel sorry for me, my father continued. I'm telling you so you know that you were wanted. That you were loved. That the worst decision of my life wasn't made because I didn't care about you. It was made because I was too young and too scared to fight for what mattered. Liam was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't respond. Then, slowly, he moved to the side of the bed. I grew up happy, he said. My parents, my adoptive parents, they loved me. They gave me everything. I never felt like I was missing something. My father nodded, tears streaming. But I always wondered. Late at night, when I couldn't sleep, I wondered if I looked like someone. If my laugh came from somewhere. if there was a face out there that mirrored mine. He paused. Turns out there was. Turns out I've been looking at it for 6 years. My father's eyes found me, then returned to Liam. What will you do? After I'm gone? Liam shook his head. I don't know. Figure out how to be her brother, I guess. Figure out how to UN love someone. You can't UN love someone. My father's voice was barely a breath. You just learn to love them differently. The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. I watched Liam absorb them, watched something shift in his expression. Is that what you did? With Margaret? My father closed his eyes. I never stopped loving Margaret, but I learned to love your mother differently. Not less. Just differently. It's possible to love two people in two completely different ways. The heart is bigger than we give it credit for. Liam looked at me. Really looked, the way he used to before everything changed. I don't know how to do that, he admitted. I don't know how to love her differently. I only know how to love her the way I've always loved her. Then give it time. My father's eyes opened, meeting Liam's with the last of his strength. Time doesn't heal everything, but it teaches you how to carry it. We stayed until he slept, until the morphine pulled him under and his breathing evened out into the shallow rhythm of the dying. Then we walked out together, into a house that felt like it belonged to strangers. My mother was in the kitchen, exactly where we'd left her. She looked up when we entered, her eyes red, her face exhausted. Is he sleeping? I said. For now. She nodded slowly. Then her gaze moved to Liam, and something shifted. Pity. Grief. Understanding. You look like him, she said quietly. Around the eyes. I never noticed before. Liam touched his face, almost surprised. Everyone keeps saying that. Sit down. My mother pulled out a chair. Both of you. We need to talk about what happens next. We sat across from each other, because next to each other felt like too much. My mother at the head of the table, the way she'd sat for every family dinner, every hard conversation, every moment that shaped us. I've been sitting here thinking, she began, about secrets, about how they destroy families, about how my husband kept one for 30 years and it's cost all of us everything. Mom. Let me finish. Her voice was firm. I loved your father. I still love him. But I'm angry. Furious. At him, at the universe, at whatever cruel twist of fate brought you two together without telling you why you fit. Liam shifted uncomfortably. I couldn't look at him. You're going to have to figure this out, she continued. The two of you. Not as lovers, not as strangers, but as something in between. And I'm going to have to watch it happen. Watch you struggle. Watch you hurt. Watch you maybe find your way to something that looks like peace. Mom, we don't expect you to. You're my daughter. Her eyes found mine, fierce and loving. And you, she looked at Liam, you're my husband's son. Which makes you mine too, whether either of us wants that right now. So here's what's going to happen. She leaned forward, her hands flat on the table. We are going to get through these next days. We are going to bury your father with whatever dignity he has left. And then we are going to figure out how to be a family. Not the family any of us wanted. Not the family we planned. But a family nonetheless. Liam stared at her. After everything. After what he did. After what we almost. After everything. My mother's voice never wavered. Because that's what families do. They figure it out. They find a way through the impossible. And if we can't be anything else to each other, at least we can try to be that. The silence that followed was heavy with possibility. With grief. With the faintest glimmer of something that might, eventually, become hope. My phone buzzed. The hospice. I answered, listened, nodded. He's awake, I said. He's asking for both of us. All of us. My mother stood, straightening her sweater with trembling hands. Liam rose too. Together, the three of us walked toward the room where man was dying. carrying the weight of everything he'd done and everything he'd left behind. We stood around his bed like strangers at a funeral for someone none of us really knew. My father's eyes moved between us, my mother at his right, holding his hand with a grip that spoke of 40 years of marriage and 40 years of secrets. Me at the foot of the bed, unable to get closer. Liam by the window, half in shadow, half in light. "I'm sorry," my father whispered. "For all of it. For the lies. For the secrets. For the pain I've caused every person in this room." My mother squeezed his hand. "Save your strength." "For what?" He laughed weakly. "So I can die a little slower? No. I need to say this. I need to say it while I still can." He looked at Liam first. The son he'd abandoned. The man who'd become his daughter's best friend. The stranger who shared his blood. "I have no right to ask anything of you. But I'm going to ask anyway." He paused, gathering strength. "Take care of her. Not as a lover. Not as anything except what you are now. But take care of her. She's going to need someone who understands what she's lost." Liam's jaw tightened. "I don't know if I can be that person. I don't know if I can be anything to her except a reminder of everything wrong." "Then be her brother." My father's voice was barely there. "Be the brother I never gave her. Be the family she'll have when I'm gone and your mother is gone and she's alone in the world. Be that. It's not nothing." Liam looked at me. I looked away. The word brother cut deeper than I expected. "And you?" My father's eyes found mine. "My beautiful girl. My heart." "Dad, please. Let me finish. I need you to know that I loved you. Not perfectly. Not the way you deserved. But with everything I had. You were the best thing I ever did. The only thing I did right." Tears burned my eyes. I blinked them back. "You're going to be okay," he continued. "All of you. Not today. Not tomorrow. But eventually. The heart heals. It scars, but it heals. You learn to carry the weight. You learn to love differently. Stop trying to fix it." My voice came out sharper than I intended. "You can't fix this. You're dying and you're leaving us with a mess you created, and you can't just say pretty words and make it better." My mother gasped softly. My father just nodded. "You're right," he said. "I can't fix it. I can only tell you the truth and hope that someday, somehow, you find a way through." He closed his eyes. For a terrible moment, I thought he was gone. Then his chest rose again, shallow but present. "I want you to know," he whispered, "that I'm proud of you. Both of you. The people you've become. The strength you've shown. Even in this. Especially in this." His eyes opened one last time, finding Liam. "Thomas. Liam. Whoever you are. I loved you. From the moment I saw you. From the moment Margaret put you in my arms. I loved you, and I was too weak to fight for you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Liam moved then. Walked to the bedside, stood looking down at the man who gave him life. For a long moment, he didn't speak. Then he did something none of us expected. He leaned down and kissed my father's forehead. "I forgive you," he said quietly. "Not because you deserve it, but because I need to. Because I can't carry this anger into the rest of my life. Because she needs me to be something other than bitter." He meant me. I knew he meant me. My father's hand reached up, trembling, and touched Liam's cheek. "Thank you. Thank you, son." Son. The word that should have meant everything. The word that now meant nothing and everything all at once. He died 3 hours later, just as dawn broke over the city. My mother was holding his hand. I was sitting in the corner, exhausted beyond words. Liam stood at the window, watching the sun rise on a world without his father in it. The machine beeped once, twice, then fell silent. The nurse came in, checked, nodded, and left us alone with a body that was no longer a person. None of us spoke. None of us moved. We just sat there, 3 strangers connected by blood and grief and secrets, watching the light change as the world kept turning. The funeral was small. Family only. Which, it turned out, included Liam now. My mother insisted. He's your father's son. He deserves to be here. So Liam sat in the front row beside me, close enough that our arms almost touched, far enough that we could pretend we weren't counting the inches. My mother held his hand during the eulogy, and I watched him cry for the first time since this began. Afterward, at the small gathering in our house, people asked who he was. Family friend, my mother said, and the lie felt heavier than the truth would have been. Margaret came. I'd called her, invited her, needed her to see that the man she'd loved 30 years ago was finally at peace. She stood at the grave for an hour after everyone else left, talking to a headstone that bore his name and nothing of his story. Liam stood with her for part of it. Mother and son, connected by blood and loss and 30 years of absence. I watched them from a distance, two strangers learning to be family, and wondered if that would ever be possible for us. The weeks that followed were a kind of slow torture. Liam and I circled each other like planets caught in a dying orbit. We talked. We didn't talk. We texted. We didn't text. We tried to be normal and failed spectacularly. He came over for dinner every Sunday, because my mother insisted and because neither of us knew how to say no. We sat at the same table where we'd shared hundreds of meals, and everything was different. The way he passed the salt. The way I poured his coffee. The way our eyes met and darted away like guilty things. Give it time, my mother kept saying. Time teaches you how to carry it. But time was also teaching me how much I'd lost. Every Sunday was a reminder. Every laugh we shared was followed by a silence where the other laugh should have been. Every moment of connection was shadowed by the knowledge that we could never have more. 6 months later, we met at the pier. The same pier where he'd kissed me. The same pier where we'd watched the sunset and dreamed of futures that would never exist. It was winter now, cold and grey, the water choppy and angry. Liam was already there when I arrived, sitting in the same spot, staring at the same horizon. You came, he said. You asked. We sat in silence for a while, the way we always had. But this silence was different. Lighter. Like we'd finally stopped fighting something we couldn't change. I've been seeing someone, he said quietly. The words hit me like a physical blow. I'd prepared for this. Known it was coming. It still hurt. Oh. A therapist. Not a girlfriend. He laughed softly. Although I'm sure that's coming too, eventually. But first I needed to figure out who I am. Who I am without you. Who I am as someone's brother. Who I am as the son of a man I never knew. And figured it out. Working on it. He turned to look at me. You. Same. Therapy. Crying. Occasional screaming into pillows. The usual grief process. He smiled, and it reached his eyes for the first time in months. I miss you. I'm right here. No. I miss us. I miss who we were before. I miss coffee shops at 2 a.m. and milkshakes in parking lots and falling asleep on your couch watching movies we'd seen 100 times. I swallowed hard. Me too. Will we ever get that back? I thought about it. Really thought about what he was asking. No, I said finally. I don't think we can. That version of us is gone. Dead. Buried with our father. Liam nodded slowly. Then what do we become? I reached out and took his hand. Not as a lover. Not as a sister testing boundaries. Just as a person reaching for another person in the dark. We become something new, I said. Something that honors what we were and accepts what we are. We become family. Real family. Not the kind we wanted, but the kind we have. He looked at our joined hands. His thumb traced circles on my skin, the way it always had. Can you do that? Really do that? Be my sister and mean it? No. Not yet. Maybe not for a long time. But I can try. I can keep showing up. I can keep trying to love you differently, the way he said. Liam was quiet for a long moment. Then he squeezed my hand and let go. Then let's try. Slowly. Carefully. Let's figure out how to be Liam and Elena instead of whatever we were trying to be. Brother and sister, I said, testing the words. Family, he corrected. Just family. Whatever that means for us. We sat on the pier until the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. We didn't talk much. Didn't need to. For the first time in months, the silence felt comfortable again. 1 year later, my mother remarried. A nice man she'd met at a grief support group. Widower, kind eyes, grown children who accepted her without question. She deserved happiness. We both knew it. Liam came to the wedding. Sat in the second row beside me. When my mother danced with her new husband, she waved us onto the floor. Come on, she called. Both of you. Dance with your mother. Your mother. She meant both of us. She'd been saying it for months now, claiming Liam as hers in a way that felt natural and right. We walked onto the floor together. Slow dance, the kind that should have been awkward but wasn't. Liam held me at a careful distance, respectful, appropriate. Brother and sister dancing at their mother's wedding. She looks happy, he said. She deserves it. So do you. He looked at me, really looked. Are you happy? I thought about it. About the year that had passed. About the grief that had softened into something bearable. About the man in front of me, who I'd loved and lost and was learning to love in a completely different way. I'm getting there, I said. You? Same. He smiled. Getting there. The song ended. We stepped apart. Normal. Appropriate. Brother and sister at a wedding. But for one moment, just one, his hand found mine and squeezed. Not as a lover. Not as a brother testing boundaries. Just as someone who'd been through the impossible and somehow survived. Ready for the next dance? He asked. Always, I said. And for the first time in a long time, I meant it.